It is a very exciting day, my dudes, because I can finally share with you, for the very first time, my gameplay footage of Kerbal Space Program 2 that I captured almost 2 weeks ago for you guys. And we start here on the main menu, and isn't that just beautiful? And the main menu does change each time you load and exit it, so there's lots of fun little things. Oh, there's a little Kerbal floating in the background, and I do like the I don't know, I like the ambient music that I'm obviously talking over so you guys can barely hear it. But hey, there's the main menu of Kerbal Space Program 2. Is the Kerbal going to hit the solar panel? No, he's not. Anyway, let's hit single player and get started. So when you press single player, you got the thing on the left that lets you start a new campaign if you want to, with that big start new campaign button. We've also got those games on the right hand side. Those were pre-made for the ESA preview event, so they had a few ships in various situations. People just go in and just start playing with things, because some of the people at the event were journalists and things. Oh, look at the Kerbal there, who hadn't really played KSP1 all that much, so that was more for them. I thought, you know what, let's just go gung-ho. Lowne Aerospace, Kerbal Space Program 2 edition. I don't have my custom flag, so I just chose a blue one, because like Lowne Aerospace's flag was blue. Thought little planet rising over on the right, thought pretty nice. We can actually set our agency colors. Now what this does is, if you can see the rocket in the background, in fact, has the white and the blue there. That's your agency's colors. So when you build a rocket, the default colors are whatever your agency's colors are. You can obviously change the colors if you want, but there's just a little thing there. Now in some instances, like the loading screens, I'm actually speeding up the footage a bit just to keep the video nice and punchy. And here we are, guys, at the Kerbal Space Center for Lowne Aerospace. And I just want to pause for a second and listen to that background music. Doesn't that just fill you? Doesn't that just inspire you to go and launch some Kerbals into space? This is what the facility looks like here. That is one of the 4 launch pads in the foreground there, and in the background you can see the 2 runways. Anyway, I think I was maybe having a sip of water or something, because I was on this screen for ages not doing anything. So let's just cut to the point where I returned and clicked on the VAB building. That was a real-time load time, by the way, so I didn't speed that up, so you can see how quickly the VAB pops into view. I think that's much faster than KSP1, right? Here we are in the build screen here. So you can see the UI is kind of the same, but kind of different to KSP1. So if you've played KSP1, you built ships in that game, you should have little problems getting used to this new user interface. Now, if it wasn't obvious, I'm recording this commentary after the fact, right? But I was wearing a headset while recording all this footage, so I can occasionally just cut to some of the things that I was saying in real time. So I'll occasionally cut to some of the real-time commentary I did, like right now. Scott's like, I am the tutorial. Yeah, I was sitting alongside Jatwaa, or Billy Winn Jr. You guys familiar with him? He makes great, I love his content so much. And of course Scott Manley, who just I picked up in the background there. Here you can see me building a rocket. I know, wild stuff right in Kerbal Space Program 2. I decided I really want to go to the Mun. I want to do an Apollo Style Mun mission. I want that to be my first ever KSP2 mission. And let me tell you guys, didn't go that well. There are lots of twists, turns, tumbles, flips of the rocket upon launch, and here you can see me contending with the fuel tank system. You may have missed it because I scrolled down, but the tanks are labeled, there you go, methane tanks, you see, or sorry, methane tanks for non-British people. It's how we pronounce it in my country. Getting a bit off topic there. But yes, you have methane tanks, which is basically liquid fuel tanks from KSP1. Methalox tanks, which are basically liquid fuel and oxidizer tanks from KSP1. You've also got hydrogen tanks. I'm not sure if I scrolled down far enough on this window for you to have seen that, but we do indeed have hydrogen tanks. Now these are a game changer, because the nuclear engine returns for KSP2. We've also got a bigger version. I think it's a 2.5 meter diameter nuclear engine, but these engines are fed by hydrogen fuel. So no more SSTOs that allow liquid fuel to be shared across Nervas and jet engines. Now you've got to change your designs up a little bit. For this rocket, I thought I'd keep things safe, keep things simple. It's my first mission after all. I wanted it to go well, and I was aware I had limited time on the clock. Oh, Scott, you'll love the default vessel name.
What? Fly safe?
Yeah. I'm going to call mine Untitled Spacecraft. So there you have it. Untitled spacecraft, I guess, is no more. Fly Safe is now the default vessel name, which is probably not going to be a very truthful statement for many players' rockets. But here, speaking of the rocket that I'm building, I think a lot of its components will look familiar to seasoned players of Kerbal Space Program 1. You can see the 2.5 meter decoupler is largely the same. The fuel tank is basically the same as the one from KSP1. You can see that dual nozzle poodle engine as well, although interestingly, the single nozzle variant in KSP1 isn't present in KSP2. Now, what you can see me doing here, frantically searching the parts menu, is I'm trying to find a launch escape system to put on the top of the capsule, because I thought, hey, we need a docking port on the top, right? Not a parachute if we're going to do an Apollo style moon landing, which means I need the launch escape system, but there is no launch escape system part, at least in this build of the game. I should say that I played this game, this version of the game, on the 9th of February. The final release comes out on the 24th, and the devs are constantly making fixes, constantly making updates. The build we were playing on was only like 2 days old, so they're constantly taking on feedback. I did encounter bugs, as did all the other a lot of the other players that played this game, and we fed them all back to Nate Simpson and the team are addressing all of them. They have our game log, so they can see if they can recreate them, figure out what caused them. So any bugs you see in this video or any of my other pre-release KSP2 videos doesn't guarantee that those bugs are going to be in the final release. Now, one thing I've done with this rocket that I don't do when building these sorts of rockets in KSP1 is attach all the docking ports to the rocket via a decoupler, because in KSP1 docking ports can act as decouplers. You don't need to attach them to another decoupler in order to separate them from the craft. But when I was building this rocket, I wasn't sure if decouplers would actually retain that function in KSP2, and I didn't want to take any chances. I only had like 3 hours to try and record as much gameplay footage as possible, so I thought, let's not waste time guessing things. I'm just going to assume that they won't, but I'm pretty sure that they do retain that function, so just saying. Anyway, we have built the Apollo style command unit. Now we're building the lander, and once again, the lander can there should look familiar to you if you've played Kerbal Space Program 1. That's the same lander can, albeit it's got a slightly different texture, and in my opinion a slightly better texture, although it does also come with a couple of downgrades. So first of all, it doesn't have the 2 side doors for extra cargo like the one on Kerbal Space Program 1 does, and it also doesn't have the ability to be switched to a rover style command pod. So this capsule in KSP1 has 2 modes. It's got rover style mode, which just basically makes it really skinny and long and linear and boxy, making it ideal for building a rover, or lander can mode, which is how it looks now basically for building landers. This capsule, at least again in this version of the game, you can only place it in this configuration. There's no alternative configuration for it. And hey, did you guys see those extra large landing gear while I was cycling through all the different landing gears available? Hey, those are going to be useful for big rockets, especially hopefully for Eve landers. They'll be a dream, but I didn't get a chance to build an Eve rocket. I only had 3 hours to play this game, guys. I wasn't going to spend that entire time failing to make an Eve rocket work. But yeah, you can see more familiar parts. That ladder piece is pretty much the same as it was in Kerbal Space Program 1. Interestingly, the Terrier texture is the old style Terrier texture, not the new style Terrier texture. And yeah, we've got the same solar panels that we have in KSP1, and these, not this, but the radially mounted parachutes, once I found them, there we go, are again pretty much the same as they are in KSP1. Although they do have some nice little visual upgrades. For one, when the parachutes deploy, they don't just spawn, like a door opens on those parachute modules and that deploys the chute, which is pretty nifty. So while I'm still building the rocket here, I'm just going to go through the specs of the PC that I was playing on for this build of the game. I mean, I guess the vehicle assembly building is not a particularly taxing environment for a computer to render, so you probably don't need a great PC for the actual editing window. But for the rest of this video, you might see the performance and things, and you might want to know kind of what the specifications of the computer I was using were, and compare that against your own PC to get a sort of a feel of how the game might run for you, bearing in mind again that this was an early build. Was not the same as the final release. The final release might be better optimized, I don't know. But basically, the specs of my computer, I had a Ryzen 9 7900X, the graphics card was an RTX 4080, and there was 32 gigabytes of RAM. The game itself is recorded at 1440p and at 60 FPS. That was the specs of the computer and just the general setup of the game. I don't actually know what the graphics settings were, if they're on ultra settings or not quite the highest setting. One of the things we were told when recording this is that we weren't allowed to change the graphics settings. So that's just putting that out there. I am aware that not every player who played the KSP Early Access Insiders event had a PC as good as mine. I think the streamers and the YouTubers got more powerful computers with the 4080s, and then people who were like from magazines and papers just reviewing the game in like text form, who wouldn't be recapturing video, they had slightly lesser power PCs. I think they had 4060s or 4070 Ti's. I don't remember. I'm just going to speed the footage up a little bit, 4 times faster than real-time speed, just to get to the next part of this build I thought was interesting, but I'm going to play back so you can still kind of pause and see things on screen, so you can kind of get a feel for what I'm doing here. But I don't think we need to be playing this video back at full-time speed for the entire duration, because it would be very, very long. I mean, I'm not going to put the whole 3-hour play session as one video. I'll probably do this as my first video I make for KSP2. And then I'll make the next mission I did, the second video. So the second mission I did was an SSTO, because hey, that's my bread and butter, right? This is a cool little window, by the way. You can kind of view your rocket in side mode so you can really fine-tune the alignment of various parts and you get that symmetry just right. Just plops your ship in 2D mode. You haven't got to like awkwardly move the camera around to get things lined up perfectly. Now here I'm going to try and do the color management. I think if I time this right, yep, there we are. So remember how we set our agency's colors? That's the default color scheme of this rocket, but you can, change it however you want. And you can see underneath, above the 2 colors, we can set individual parts to be colored or just have the entire stack be its own color. So I think for this one, I put the lander as a separate color scheme to the rest of the rocket. Thought that might be quite a little bit nifty. Now, one thing I didn't do, because I didn't realize, but you can see on the big square, where the color picker square, to the right of that is a transparency gauge. And if you set that to 0 transparency, no, I said that wrong. If you set that to full transparency, you actually get the bare metal of the part showing. I think that's what Nate Simpson told me. So if I'm wrong, it was his fault for explaining it to me while I wasn't listening. So, yeah, I thought, hey, let's go for Iron Man colors, red and gold, but it looks terrible, so I didn't go with that in the end. I'd really love to experiment with this more and find some color schemes, color palettes that I think work nicely. Now I'm speeding the footage up once again just to keep things nice and punchy. One thing that's missing from the color manager, which Nate tells me is on the list of things to add, is an eyedropper tool. So for those that don't know what an eyedropper tool is, basically you click the eyedropper tool and then that's basically as a color selection. So if you've set one part to have a very specific color that you want to have on another part, you just click that part with the eyedropper and that just sets the color palette to whatever it was you just clicked. I really hope that made sense. That's what an eyedropper tool is. You can probably just Google what is the Photoshop eyedropper tool for a nice text-based explanation written by an actual person who knew what they were talking about when they wrote it. Now it came to building the fairing. And this, I encountered a problem. How do you build the fairing? How do you build fairings?
I haven't tried a fairing.
Billy, how do I build fairing? I've built a rocket, I just can't build a fairing. Yes, I then proceeded to try and just spend ages trying to figure out how to... Now, don't worry. I did, in fact, figure it out. It's different from how it is in KSP1. Anyway, I decided to come to this conclusion. Maybe it just builds it when you launch. Let's just launch.
Built on launch. Oh, no.
We'll wing it. Right. I want to get some Kerbals. One thing you might have seen me doing while I was unsuccessfully trying to build that fairing was that I kept on opening a thing called Parts Manager. You can still see it in the background there behind the Kerbal window. So what happens is when you click a part in the vehicle assembly building in KSP2, it doesn't just come with a little menu for that part. For example, in KSP1, you right click a fuel tank, it comes with the fuel levels for that tank, etc. Doesn't happen in KSP2, instead it just opens the parts window. By the way, here, press launch, that was the real-time load screen. Way faster loading in KSP2. It doesn't build the fairing automatically, so...
It's separated.
But how is this for a magical emotional moment? The very first rocket I ever launched in Kerbal Space Program 2. In fact, I had my GoPro with me so I could record this moment. I don't see an SAS light appearing. Let's just assume it's on. And then we'll go. Raise a glass of water.
What's the worst thing?
Oh! I've got to put my camera down now. Don't worry, I will let you hear the in-game audio for the launch. I'm going to rewind now to when I pressed launch in the game for real. And yeah, it was actually really exciting. It does this really cute countdown when you press launch. I'm just going to let you listen to it in full. Oh, SAS is on, I see. I didn't check my staging, and I don't know how the staging window works. Where's the altitude gauge? I should have checked all of this before I pressed launch. Let's get followed prograde. Oh no! Oh no! It's a disaster! Godspeed!
You forgot your wings. They still force you to do
How do I, let's just revert to VAB.
You know, I'm so used to holding shift, and I don't think you have to do that anymore.
So I did cut across to the vehicle assembly building because you may have noticed my rocket was wobbling all over the place. It wasn't very stable, so I've added loads of struts to it now. And then I figured I needed to figure out how to build the fairings. So here we go. Has anyone figured out how to build fairings?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Do you think I've got that far?
I just
I'm a
realized.
Kerbal Space Program expert, not Kerbal Space Program 2.
Neither am I, as it happens. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to do some jump cuts so I can showcase my the struggles of me trying to figure out how to build fairings in KSP2. Aero? Oh.
My lift is really high.
But how do you build it?
We're going to try it again. I like how it says quality of life.
It's nice and kind of
Was that-
stuff and so on. Like a
Am I building a fairing now?
I like the
Oh, that's how you build the fairing. You like just drag. Oh. So there you are. That's how you build fairings in KSP2. It's not like just drawing it like you do in KSP1 where you just go click, 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 click to draw the shape. This time it's a bit more precise. You use those. Then it came to constructing an interstage fairing, and I was really struggling to get it to the game to accept my interstage fairing design, so I'm speeding the footage up now just to get past the boring part of me playing with a fairing for like 5 minutes. But there we have it. The second iteration of the rocket is ready. And I thought, let's just check our Kerbals first of all. I thought I had 3 Kerbals on board. It turned out I had 4. Will that play into the video later? Maybe it will. At first I thought, let's just try the boat launch site. See what that is. And hey, look at this. You can launch straight into the ocean. It did mean that my second launch attempt failed as well. I just kind of wanted to see what the boat... I suspected there was going to be docks in KSP2 because that looked like that was the case looking at aerial shots of the Kerbal Space Head. But it's good to confirm, that you can launch vessels directly into the sea. Even better than the Cove launch site in Kerbal Space Program 1 where you still had to sort of awkwardly drive it off the launch pad. Anyway, we're going to try and launch the rocket again. But first I decided to add a few more struts because it did look a bit wobbly when it was tipping over in the ocean, so I figured I'd add some more struts because yes, one thing, I've been tiptoeing around this topic, but guys, there's no auto strut in KSP2. You only have regular strut. Now, I raised this concern with the devs, as did many others, and adding auto strut is on their list of things to add for Kerbal Space Program 2. So again, I must state I was playing an early build of the game. This may end up being in the final release, but for me it was not. So in case you're wondering why my rockets are so wobbly and I'm having to use loads of struts everywhere, it's because there was no auto strut. Anyway, let's press launch and bask in the countdown once again. I love it. I also love how there's a water deluge system that fires up during the countdown. There it is. And yeah, if you were unaware, the actual rocket sounds in KSP2 were recorded from actual real-life rocket launches. When you launch a rocket in KSP2, the sound you hear is from a real rocket really launching in real life. How cool is that? Here I'm just pressing the V key, seeing what the different camera options are. I was trying to find free cam, which is the best camera mode in KSP1, and turns out all the camera views got different names in this game, so I didn't know which was which. So I guessed one, hoped for the best. Here we are piercing through the cloud layer, by the way. How cool is that? I hope you get a good sense of the UI, by the way. I haven't really talked about that much, have I? But hey, this flight's going pretty well, right? It was going so well, guys. And then this happened.
Oh!
Yeah, I don't think the SAS wheels that come in command pods are as powerful as they were in KSP1. I encountered this when building this rocket and when I built my SSTO later on. You think you really need to add extra reaction wheels to get the same level of control that you might be used to in KSP1. Disclaimer that it might have just been me being bad at the game, so I don't know. But yeah, that's just something to bear in mind. We need to add some control surfaces to the bottom of this rocket, though, to stop it flipping out. That engine, by the way, in case you're wondering what engine I'm using, that engine does exist in KSP1. That's the Mammoth engine. Here, it just looks like a single engine bell, though. Well, it just has a single engine bell rather than being an SLS-style cluster of RS-25s like in KSP1. Anyway, there we are. We've added some winglets to the bottom of the stack. Oh my gosh, guys, wings in this game are so good. But I'll cover that when we end up building a plane later on. But let me tell you, the wings alone are the reason why you should get Kerbal Space Program 2. And also, look, transparent glass on the command pod. Not all the command pods have transparent glass yet, but they will eventually. They haven't quite finished adding transparent glass to all of the parts yet. Oh, the countdown started. And I love it. Just in case you're wondering though, hey, the countdown is really cute and all, but it's gonna get old after 500 launches. You can skip the countdown. When you press launch, you can just have the countdown. You can just have the rocket launch straight away. But I don't know, I think it's kind of cute. I'm liking the countdown. Hey, and it helps me drag out my my video lengths, eh? More monetization for me, but that's me being selfish there and obviously being facetious. Just want to make that clear. But yeah, I know I just said that, hey, it's going to get old if you're launching a rocket loads of times. Well, let me tell you guys, I'm not launching this rocket again. This is it. We are going to the Mun. We're doing our Apollo Style Mun mission. There's still things that go wrong. There was a tragic, a genuine tear-jerking tragedy on this flight that I won't spoil any further, but we'll get to that when we get to it. As you see, I hope that UI, I really like the UI actually. I was torn when I saw screenshots of it. I was like, oh, I don't know, looks different, mate. But I actually really like how everything is just concentrated on the nav bar. You haven't got to keep looking across the screen to get all the stats you need. Now listen to this. How cool is that? It's like the Jatwaa mod is incorporated. You got the little announcer on your stage and just little ambient beeps and boops, and oh, I love the sound design in this game. Is great, as is the engine plume, by the way. And also this is one of my favorite new features. So time warp in KSP1, the lowest time warp was 1, which is just real-time speed. There is a lower time warp in KSP2. There is time warp 0. And time warp 0 is basically a pause function, but look, you can still do stuff. So you haven't got to frantically make a maneuver node within the 30 seconds you've got before your ship reaches that point in which you're making the maneuver node. You can just pause the game, and you've got all the time in the world to make the maneuver node and get everything right. Now, I did encounter a bug, as did everyone else playing this game, where when you pause the game, it's meant to just say, game paused. And then when you resume the game, it says, game resumed. For me, and everyone else, it said that 50 times. Like, here we go, we're going to resume, and it says like unpause. It said it a bunch of times. That is a known bug, and I don't think it's going to be in the final version, that particular bug, because I mentioned it to Nate Simpson, creative director, and he was like, that bug wasn't there 2 days ago, so that's a brand new thing, so we can probably fix that. So that's just saying. And hey, look, there's a trajectory thing as well, so we can see what our suborbital trajectory is going to be. We can predict where we're going to land. So for anyone that wants to make a Falcon 9 / Starship style lander, there you are. You've got a nice trajectory. And I guess that's helpful for things like, especially atmospheric landings on planets like Eve and Juno and Lathe especially. Yeah, I know, Lathe's not a planet. You're very smart, I know. It makes it easier to kind of predict where you're going to end up. But we're obviously going to try and get into an orbit. I'm a little bit slower with the whole making maneuver nodes, so I'm still kind of getting used to the controls. One thing I did notice was that you can't right-click the apoapsis and periapsis markers to kind of make the the number stay there, if that makes sense. You have to constantly mouse over. I did raise this concern as something that I think they need to add to the game, and it was taken on board. In fact, basically, after we did the play event and we were having a meal later on, we got a few glasses of wine, Nate Simpson came over to our table. When I say our table, I mean the table that had me, ESA, Jatwaa, Scott Manley, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, and a couple of other... Daz from NASA Spaceflight. There were a few on the table, and we basically told him a bunch of stuff that we think needs to be fixed and stuff that needs to be added, and so there's like somewhat of a priority as well. And he sat there just scrawling all these notes down on his phone, and he's come back to us a little bit later on, actually today for me, which is the 16th of February, recording this commentary. And yeah, they're all super on it. I do think all the stuff that we kind of miss that isn't going to be in the game or in KSP2 when it launches on the 24th, it is going to get added. I have complete faith in this development team that they are going to implement the things that we want, basically. Oh, there's that bug, which hopefully you guys shouldn't encounter. But yeah, I brushed over the engine plume thing, but look at that. It's even better. I'm sorry to say this, but I think it's even better than the waterfall mod. It's brilliant. Like the way the engine plume expands as you get into the vacuum of space at sea level. I think this was best demonstrated earlier on in this mission, right? When I first launched, you could see the plume of the Mammoth engine being very concentrated below the engine bell, and then it expanded as we punched through the upper parts of the atmosphere. There we are, we're out of fuel, and we're not actually in a stable Kerbal orbit. As you can see for the maneuver node burn timer thing, we still need to do some extra burning, but the ship is in the wrong configuration. And I started panicking, like, oh my gosh, I need to reconfigure the ship, and I don't know how. So I quickly started panic staging everything, and I tried to find the button that would let me transfer crew, and I couldn't find it in a panic. So then I just started burning, because you can't right click a command pod now and just press transfer crew. It's different now. I don't know how. So I just did a quick load. I've now quick loaded to a previous point. We're gonna try this again. Now, one thing is, whenever I quick save, you guys won't know, because there's no visible indications a quick save has taken place, so there's no on-screen text and there's no audio cue either. So I and others raised this to the devs as something that probably should be changed, and they are looking into this as something they can add. So maybe you guys will have that at the final release. I don't know. I don't know what the devs are prioritizing, basically, for final release. By the way, whenever I say final release, I don't mean the final version of the game. I mean when it releases on the 24th of February. Quick save. Bill. Get him in here. Oh!
Look at everything. We need to put the back here.
Oh, he's grabbed on. Just get in the thing. There we go. Right. He's on board now.
Okay.
Right. Then we want to decouple. Yeah, you can see the parts manager there playing a part again. Like, you don't right click a part to do stuff. It's all done in the parts manager now. So to decouple that decoupler, I'd open the parts manager and then click it from there. Here you can see me switching between the craft, because I was trying to figure out how to set the docking port as my target. In KSP1, you double click a docking port or whatever to make that as your target. KSP2, that just switches to the craft, which is, good, but it left me in a bit of a pickle. I was like, oh wait, what's the button now? It's in Parts Manager. So it's all in Parts Manager now. That's how you set things as targets. And hey, now I'm going to see if the Lowne lazy method of docking carries over to KSP2 and it works in the sequel. I know this is the question that you've all been wanting an answer to. Come on. First docking, let's go. Yes!
I honestly cannot see.
Okay, right. I need to save. Now we want a point prograde. I ended up messing up a little bit later on, so I'm just going to cut ahead to that. Stage. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, this is a disaster. Right. The point and prograde. Right. Activate. Yes. And my periapsis is rapidly rising. Right, that's it. We're in orbit. Yeah, so you can probably hear Jatwaa and occasionally Scott Manley in the background in my live commentary. So that's why I'm kind of doing more post commentary for this video, just so that this microphone I'm talking into sounds better than the headset mic I had during the event, and also I'm not picking up anyone else's voices, so hopefully it's a bit more easy to understand what it is that I'm saying. But yeah, I'm going to switch back to live commentary map because I made a very tragic discovery at this moment.
Lights, epic.
Just wonderful. I want to change my angles with some of this.
So where's Val?
The length.
Oh, there they all are. Oh, hang on. Have I got too many? I've got 4, but there's only space for 3. Oh, I'm going to have to just leave one on the Mun. We'll have to come back. We'll rescue him, it's okay. Oh, Delta V, 2,000. Oh, we've got loads. Oh, we're perfect. We're golden.
Control surface, which is great.
Let's go.
Yes, in my defense, I'd never played Kerbal Space Program 2 before, and I clearly had watching the editing footage back. When I say editing, I mean when I was building the rocket in the vehicle assembly building, I see what happened. I got confused because, again, I'm not used to how KSP2 handles its parts, where it's all in the parts manager now. So I pressed crew window, and I saw 3 Kerbal faces. But those 3 Kerbal faces were, this is the crew of this part. And then underneath, which I didn't see, was Bill Kerman's little portrait saying that he's inside the lander can. So I launched the rocket with 3 Kerbals in the command pod and 1 Kerbal in the lander can, which means that we're not going to be able to bring them all back. We are going to have to abandon 1 Kerbal on the surface of the Mun. Now, speaking of the Mun and glitches, you can see I'm making this maneuver node. I'm trying to see where my orbital path goes past the Mun by focusing the map screen on the Mun. You guys played KSP1, I'm assuming, so you guys know what I mean. And as you can see, there's no marker on the actual Mun. It just isn't appearing. And that's a bug. It's a known bug, and I don't know if this is going to be present for the the release on the 24th of February. Again, I must once again reiterate that this was an early build. It was a 2-day-old build. I hope I'm allowed to say that. I have not violated some thing, but I think my NDA expires on the 20th, which is when this video is going live. So I think I'm hopefully in the clear. I don't think I was told anything else I couldn't say. If I was, and I've done that, I'm sorry. Please keep inviting me to KSP2 events, though. KSP dev team, if you're watching this video. Oh, there's another bug that hopefully you guys won't encounter. I'm just going to speed the footage up a little bit here, just to keep the video flowing a little bit nicer. I can see that it's getting quite long. We've just sailed past the 30-minute mark for an Apollo Style Mun mission. But I guess it's kind of a special Apollo Style Mun mission, right? It's a Kerbal Space Program 2 Apollo Style Mun mission. Am I the first YouTuber to upload, can I get my words out as well, to upload an Apollo Style Mun mission? I hope, maybe, that I am. Who knows? Now, here you can see me executing the maneuver node burn. The maneuver node maker is smarter in KSP2. So in KSP1, in order to perform maneuver node burns with the highest accuracy, you shouldn't burn when the time to maneuver node reaches 0 seconds. Instead, you take the total estimated burn time, cut that time in half, and then that's how long before the maneuver node you should start your burn. So example, for a 5-minute burn, you should begin burning 2.5 minutes before you encounter the maneuver node. Of course, there was the advanced burn time indicator that was added later on, which sort of fixed this, but it's not enabled by default and always feels a little bit tacked on. Well, no longer. In KSP2, by default, the maneuver node panel tells you when to start your burn accurately, so no more mental maths. When the start burn in X seconds indicator hits 0, that's when you actually begin the burn. So here we are, just time warping up to the Mun. As you can see, the orbital line passing the Mun isn't showing up, but the entrance and exit of the Mun sphere of influence are appearing. Those blue orbs there, those concentric circles. Though actually, looking at it now, maybe it doesn't, because I can see there's an orb corresponding to where we entered the sphere of influence, but there's another orb that is not along our exit trajectory. So actually, I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me. I don't know what those are. I should probably check that with the devs. What are those concentric circles? But I must reiterate once again that when I was on the main map screen before I entered the Mun sphere of influence, and I couldn't see an orbital line like I can now going past the Mun. That's a bug. That wasn't some weird artistic design choice to make the game harder. That will be fixed. I don't know if it's going to be fixed for the release on the 24th of February. Hopefully it will be, but I don't know. I can't confirm that for you. But it is nice, eh? Can you see the sphere of influence of the Mun? There's that faint circle going around. You can't see it now because I'm too far zoomed in, but you've probably seen it at some point. That's the Mun's sphere of influence. And that, to me, is super helpful. It's maybe not that useful for the Kerbin system where it's just Minmus and Mun, so you might be thinking, oh, what's the big deal? But for something like a Joule 5 mission, where there are 5 moons of Joule, and you don't want to accidentally encounter something like Lathe or Tylo, which both have massive gravity wells, can easily sling your ship off course out of the Joule system inadvertently. So it's really helpful to be able to make sure that your path around the Joule system isn't accidentally going to enter the sphere of influence of a celestial body. Likewise, something like Mun Orbit. Ike is notorious for messing up things in Mun Orbit because Ike has a very big sphere of influence. So again, useful to be able to quickly see if you're ever going to accidentally encounter a celestial body. In KSP1, what you had to do was make a maneuver node and just spam the next orbit button to just see if you'd ever accidentally encounter something, and this is a much more elegant solution in my opinion. Oh, I see. I just seen a little logo on the blue orbs. There's a capsule and a picture of Kerbin, so I'm guessing that's the exit path for when you want to get back to Kerbin. I learned something. This is so I'm not showing you guys the live commentary when I actually filmed this footage, but it's still a live comment. I'm still learning things. Don't know if that's a bad thing when it comes to the quality of this content, but hopefully you guys are enjoying the ride so far. If you are, hey, leave a like. Great saying this 36 minutes in, I know, but hey, leave a like down below and subscribe, ring that bell. There's going to be more KSP2 content in the days before the release. I got the SSTO video, I got a Juna mission kind of. I got an interview with 2 of the devs, including Nate Simpson, creative director. I asked lots of hard-hitting questions. I don't think I held back, so I'm quite proud of how that interview came out. So yeah, you guys got a lot, so make sure you're subscribed and you get all the KSP2 content. So we now have 2 Kerbals in the lander can. It's time to undock the 2 vessels and begin our landing procedure. And oh no, one of them is not going to be returning. Who is it going to be? Vote now on your phones. Is it going to be Bob Kerman or is it going to be Bill Kerman? I had to make a tricky decision on the surface of the Mun. And in fact, my hands are clean from any guilt because it was not me that ultimately made the decision. It was Jatwaa, Billy Winn Jr. Because I think he has 2, I think Billy Winn Jr. is what he goes on YouTube. And I think on Twitch and Reddit, it's Jatwaa. I don't know. You guys have hopefully seen his stuff. It's really, it's so, his laugh is so infectious. I'll put a link in the description. Hopefully I remember to him. But yeah, we're going to begin. We're going to activate the Terror engine. Again, I'm still kind of a bit not used to the whole parts manager thing. Well, I'm just used to right-clicking stuff and pressing activate. Now it's a little bit more, it's like an extra step, the parts manager. And that goes, you know, both for the vehicle assembly building and in flight. I don't know. Actually, I'm going to pause myself there because I just realized I couldn't get this engine to work. And I don't know why. I think it was a bug or I was just being an idiot and had something disabled. But I've got a full tank of fuel and the engine just wasn't lighting. And I spent a good, 2 or 3 minutes trying to fix this. In the end, I just quick loaded before I, decoupled the lander, and then the engine just worked. So I don't know what happened there, if it was a glitch or I just did something dumb. Maybe once I know how to play this game in 3 months' time, I'll look back and think, aha, I did this. But for now, I don't know. So quick load. But yeah, going back to the topic I interrupted myself for. Yeah, the whole parts manager system. There it is again. I don't know if I prefer it to the system that was in KSP1 where you just right-click stuff and it's there. Because that system, I guess when I say it out loud, it sounds way simpler, but it had its flaws. If you're in a, let's say, tumbling and out-of-control spacecraft, which, let's be real, is about 75% of spacecraft in Kerbal Space Program, you right-click something and the window just keeps moving around, and it's a nightmare, and you're trying to select the part, and you can't because the craft is spinning. Having a parts manager, you just click that, and you just got a fixed menu. You can scroll through to the part that you need. And it was great.
Burn that up.
Hopefully this does.
What?
Okay. No, it's not. It's
Control from here?
where we just symmetry.
Oh, why was it controlling
that's
backwards?
okay,
I
because
don't
I've got
care.
it really close now.
So yeah, that was kind of weird. The control point didn't automatically switch to have either the front docking port or the command pod for this lander serve as the new control point. Obviously, when I was still docked to the red command ship, the control point was set to the Apollo style module. And then when I undocked, I guess it was still acting like that was the control point. So everything was, prograde and retrograde were reversed. I don't know if that was just a bug that happened for this time, or maybe that's something that's not in KSP2 at the moment. I'm sure they would implement it if it wasn't in KSP2 at this stage. Might want to just check your control point when you undock 2 vessels. Anyway, speaking of the, I haven't mentioned this yet, but the, the prograde, retrograde, radial in, radial out, and the normal and anti-normal nodes, you can see them all there next to the nav board. It's a really quick way of switching a ship's orientation. I know it was in KSP1, but I really like the, it just feels like you got that little diagram, the little space shuttle in the middle, showing you a bit more clearly which way your craft's going to face, pointing in each direction, and I don't know, I like it. And as we're getting close to the surface, you can see our velocity on the nav board has changed to surface. You can click that to change it to be relative to the orbit or your target if you've got a target selected, just like you could in KSP1. But yeah, as you can see, the the nodes on the ship orientation window, don't know what it's called, have changed to be like north and south and up and down. Makes it a bit, I don't know, a bit more user-friendly, I guess. Now here, I don't really know what happened. The ship just started spinning out of control. You can see I have my auto SAS set to retrograde, but that's not helping. The ship is still just tumbling, and I'm not sure why. Because we've got full electric charge. And yeah, I don't know why it's doing this. I wasn't sure. So could you guys tell me? Or like maybe I'll watch this back again. I think maybe in like 3 years time, I'll watch this video again and be like, I know how to play KSP2 now. Let's see how Noob Matt did. And be like, oh, you didn't press G or something. I don't know. But for whatever reason, the spacecraft started tumbling uselessly. Hey, I did say earlier that tumbling uselessly describes most Kerbal spacecraft, and I guess mine was no exception. So I had to do a quick load just there. I do think that's... No, I don't think it is the last quick load in this mission. Sorry. Wishful thinking. But yeah, what do you guys think of the Mun, eh? So, I know KSP2, I'm sort of like, awkward point to be raised now. I don't think the surface of the Mun's... I've been to a couple of surfaces in KSP2, but I've been to the Mun, as was one of them. Been to Junior as well, eh? Upcoming video, subscribe. The surface of the Mun, it doesn't look as good as modded KSP1, like Parallax 2, and that's it actually. And the high res textures that come with the stock KSP1 together look better than the Mun in KSP2. But from a distance, so when we were in Mun Orbit, the Mun did just look better than even, in my opinion. You guys can rewind the footage and decide for yourselves if you want. But in my opinion, Mun from Orbit looks better than Mun from Orbit in KSP1, even with all the ultra graphics and mods. And I think the surfaces, this is an early access release, and I'm playing on a pre-release to that early access release. So I have no doubt that graphics will improve over time. I think the devs are focusing more on the mechanics and the gameplay features, as they should. At the end of the day, the graphics is not why we all fell in love with KSP1, is it? It was the sense of it, for me at least, it was the sense of pride and accomplishment, to quote the greatest Reddit comment of all time. It was the sense of pride and accomplishment of achieving orbit and doing the impossible and reaching those barriers, and that's why I love the game. The graphics were very much secondary, and I know this because I was playing the game on a second-hand laptop from 2012 which ran everything at 4 FPS. Oh no! But hey, the reason I left that in was it kind of exploded well, right? It just exploded in one big go. It didn't just lag the game out for like 5 seconds and then just ping a load of debris. I don't know, I thought it was kind of a cool crash to showcase. Hence why I crashed. I deliberately crashed. I am a good player of Kerbal Space Program 2. I just wanted to showcase that effect. I thought, hey, we're going to do the landing for real this time. Let's film my live reaction.
Well, this is it, guys. Gotta get my vlogging camera out again.
Oh, the time warp is so slow.
Just gonna. I want you guys to be here for the first Mun landing. So I'm gonna try and awkwardly position my camera like that. Oh my god, I need to be throttling up. Okay, hang on. That didn't count.
No, it's still showing.
I raise the glass once again. Oh, we're slowing down too fast. Beautiful. And there we are.
Oh, look at that.
Our first moon landing.
So there we are, the first ever Mun landing for me in KSP2. But of course, we still have the issue that we need to abandon either Bill Kerman or Bob Kerman. And I didn't want Kerbal blood on my hands, so I consulted with Billy Winn Jr. next door.
Right.
Maybe.
Billy, I've got myself in a pickle here. I brought one too many Kerbals, so I need to abandon one on the surface of the Mun.
Usually it's Bill Kerbal.
I've got to... You're right. You're the one that said it. You're the one. We're going to send Bill out. Look, he's got no idea. He's got no idea. He's never getting back on.
Bill, you know, you do a great job and everything, but...
We just don't like you very much, so... You smell funny.
So there you are. I mean, I was kind of disturbed by the fact that there was absolutely no hesitation whatsoever from Billy Winn Jr. Like, yep, Bill Kerman, let's just send him to die on the surface of the Mun. Well, no, he's gonna... The Blunderbirds will return. They won't. Okay, I actually asked if I could have my save file to rescue him later, and I was told I couldn't. So this is where he's going to spend the rest of his life. Bill Kerman, engineer, eternal Mun inhabitant. But hey, did you see that when I was trying to think of a name for my Mun landing site flag, he did the little scratching his chin pose. Isn't that neat? I'm just trying to distract from the tragedy before you. Oh yeah, the reason he hasn't planted the flag is not a bug. I had the game paused in 0 time warp. When am I gonna realize? When am I gonna realize? Oh, there we are.
I don't know why my sitter...
Erase the glass.
It certainly hasn't pointed to...
Beautiful.
Very sad though, very sad. I will show you the planting of the flag again with the footage not filmed like from a GoPro filming my screen because, you know, that looks terrible. But I wanted to show that I was, you know, paying tribute to our brave Kerbanaut. Thank you for your sacrifice, Bill Kerbal, in Jatwaa's words. Hey, did you guys get it? He was moonwalking on the Mun. Doesn't work, but he was Mun-walking on the Mun. Anyway, before he realizes what's happening, let's go and ahead and get ourselves back to orbit. So here we go. I just crossfaded there because I think I went... Maybe I went to the toilet, but I was AFK for a bit. And now we're just time warping round to the point where our target vessel reaches a point where it'd be good to start launching. So I'm aiming sort of have the target just before our location on the ground. I guess it was not that helpful having the game unpaused and as in, you know, having the game unpaused and paused giant yellow UI there. But like I say, I think it's a known about thing. The devs were like, oh, that wasn't a thing, you know, a few days ago, so they know about it. It should hopefully be fixed. I can't guarantee it'll be fixed because I don't know. It's not the 24th of February for me, so who knows? But hopefully, if it is there at day one release with early access, it'll be gone soon. Anyway, we can go. Bob Kerman. Bob Kerman, you monster. You've abandoned your friend on the surface of the Mun. I mean, Kerbals love space. Kerbals always want to be in space. I look at this as like a reward. This is a present. Congratulations, Bill Kerman, for establishing the first Mun colony with a flag. That's it. You don't have a shelter or anything, but hopefully you can, you know, get some water from the ice on the water ice on the surface of the Mun, which hopefully exists. You know, suckle on the little ice rocks. Maybe you get some water. Oh, you know, out of sight, out of mind. I'm just going to move on. You know, it was an early build. You know, guys, I was playing on a pre-release build. In the real final game, Bill Kerman won't be there. So really, none of this matters. None of this matters at all. Anyway, here you can see me ascending towards my target's orbit and trying to figure out how the whole encounter system works in Kerbal Space Program 2. It's largely the same as Kerbal Space Program 1, but it's different enough where I struggled. And again, I only had like a couple of hours to like play the game, and I had objectives. I'm like, I've got to film this mission, I've got to film that mission, I want to get this sort of content, and you know, it didn't really work. But hey, I want to draw your attention towards what just happened. I just switched to the tracking station and then switched to another craft. Switching to the tracking station is the dream in KSP2. It's like, I nearly said KSP1 for some reason, but it's so quick. There's a button on screen, bottom right of your screen, see the big go button. To the left of that, and to my mouse nearly touched it, there is a switch to tracking station, and it is like, it's there again. There's the screen. It's instant, and it's so helpful. Like, loading times are really good in KSP2. There's just so many nice quality of life improvements. And in this video, I haven't even touched on wings, which, my goodness, guys, are so good. I am now coasting my way back to the mothership, though, which is kind of an arduous process, because I guess I was playing a little bit stressed. As mentioned, I had a limited time frame to make this video, and as a consequence of that, I probably ended up ironically taking longer than I normally would have done if I hadn't had that time constraint pressure. And you guys have also seen me done Rendezvous. Hopefully, you know, you've seen videos on this channel before. You've seen me do Orbital Rendezvous many times before. You know what it is. I'm going to speed the footage up to, you know, 2 times normal speed, so you can kind of still see the KSP UI, but also you're not getting bored, because we've just passed the 50-minute mark. And yeah, I thought, oh, this video is going to be like, hey, it's going to be like a 25-minute video, and it's going to be nice and chill, and it became this massive thing. Although, to be fair, I didn't deliberately drag this out or anything. I thought, you know what, let's not time-lapse the build. Well, I did time-lapse a bit of the build, didn't I? But most of the build was not time-lapsed, because I guess, actually going to interrupt myself here, I was trying to figure out how to, like, set my orbital speed, like the speed on the nav ball, to be relative to my target. So I was trying to make maneuver nodes, desperately trying to think, oh, I can make a maneuver node that will tell me how long I need to burn and what direction. And then eventually I realized, oh, if you just click your velocity gauge, that changes it between target, orbit, and surface. So there you are. That's, if you were wondering why I was panically clicking everything, that's what I was trying to do. And I did it. But yeah, anyway, I didn't time-lapse like all of the build, even though I planned to from the outset, because I realized that, you know, for a lot of you guys, this is the first time, well, actually for all of you guys, right? This is the first time you've seen the UI for the building, the first time you've seen the UI for flying the craft, and yeah, it's good. It's just different enough where it's like, it's going to take a little bit of a learning curve, I think, to get used to, but ultimately, if you're good at KSP1, you're going to be fine at KSP2. There are some changes that might take some getting used to. I would say maybe after 3 hours, you'll be used to them. Downside for me is that I had 3 hours from start to finish to play KSP for the very first time, figure all of this out, and also try and film usable footage for a YouTube video. So that was my predicament. Anyway, I said earlier in this video that I tried out Lowne lazy method of docking and it worked, but ultimately, I was, you know, redocking 2 ships in low Kerbal orbit that were already fairly well aligned. It wasn't really a good test of the Lowne lazy method docking system. But now, we're going to try again with slightly more eccentric angles this time. And as you can see, even from very oblique angles of initiation. That was a weird way of phrasing that. The ships maintained alignment and the docking worked. So yes, I can 100% confirm that the Lowne lazy method of docking works in Kerbal Space Program 2. Now, for those that don't know, the Lowne lazy method of docking involves, you know, having 2 craft with Kerbals inside. So you have pilot control, right, and auto SAS. You want to dock them together. So you set the docking port of the other craft as your target for both crafts. Set auto SAS to just target the target vector, and they just burn towards each other. And even if they're at completely the wrong angle, the ships will maintain alignment all the way up to docking. So you don't need RCS, and it's dead easy to dock ships together. I didn't actually like coin the fact that this is the Lowne lazy method of docking. I just like saw this in the comments of YouTube saying, how's Matt doing that? How's Matt getting it to so the ships can maintain alignment even during a weird docking procedure? Up until then, I just assumed that was like common practice, that everyone else had figured this out, but I guess not many people had, or at least most people in my comment section hadn't. So I'm like, oh yeah, guys, this is just how I always dock. And then it sort of gained traction on Reddit. I saw this in Reddit comments saying, oh, that's how Matt Lowne docks. That's the Lowne method of docking. And then I sort of then said, well, it's the Lowne lazy method of docking. And then that's the name that sort of ended up sticking. So there you are. That's my claim to fame. I'm not saying I invented a cool new strat. I'm sure I wasn't the first. I definitely can't have been the first. But you know, hey, Scott Manley gets to have a thing in KSP2 saying, you know, the default vessel name is Fly Safe. Darn it, I would like to have Lowne lazy method of docking canonized. So yes, my sheer ego is taking over this commentary right now. But yeah, that's that was that weird little. I guess, guys, I'm struggling. I've never been. If you guys watched my Planet Coaster series that ended actually a week ago, VSAD, I know. But yeah, whenever the commentaries are more than like 30, 40 minutes, it just ends up descending into chaos in like the last 10% where I just don't know. I don't know what to do. But oh, there's that engine blue like that. That's beautiful. And hey, I tell you what, I didn't encounter in this, like, filming this mission, or throughout my entire time playing KSP2, I may have encountered bugs, you know, from time to time playing KSP2. I tell you what I never encountered, that blasted sound bug. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Whereas eventually in KSP1 these days, the sound will just eventually stop. I don't know if it's a mod. I hear different things. I hear that it's associated with better time warp, waterfall, opening the map screen. People have this even with an unmodded install, so I have no idea what on earth this issue is being caused by these. Like, people emailed me with solutions when I first complained about this in a video, and I'm afraid none of the solutions worked. Maybe I just did them wrong, I'm not sure. But yeah, none of it worked. I mean, to clarify the sound bug, not all the sounds cut out, like aero sounds were still there, and like weird, like the odd one here and there, like landing gear deployment would still have a sound, but engines wouldn't have a sound. That's the main one. Maybe it's just engine sounds. I'm not sure. Hence why I thought it was to do with Waterfall, which is an engine mod. But I guess, you know, because I tried uninstalling Waterfall and that didn't make a difference. And that also happened to other players. They installed Waterfall. It didn't change it either. So who knows? Hey, there's the parachutes deployed, which means this mission is coming to a close. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, first of all, we got the transparent glass still working like a dream. And also, look, some doors have opened on the parachute containment modules. And I think that's just cooler than like having just the black void appear on the parachute module texture. The doors are a cute little effect. There you are, there's a good little view. Now, one thing that's not as good as KSP1, you've probably already seen now, the parachutes. Oh, I'm getting a nice little view of the Kerbals, isn't that nice? But when I zoom out, you'll see again, the parachutes have not separated. They're clipping together. And again, I mentioned this to the dev team. They said, yes, that's on the list of things we're going to fix. If anything, guys, let's just enjoy the nostalgia trip of just having that classic, what KSP1 parachutes used to look like. So I guess in conclusion, I had lots of fun playing KSP2, and I'm looking forward to playing it. I acknowledge fully that there is work to be done. And so I'm not going to sit here and shill and say, you know, you guys need to buy this game now. I would say, you know, look at what we've posted, myself and my colleagues that went to this event, look at reviews and stuff, and just decide. At the end of the day, it's early access. The beauty is you don't have to buy it right away. Just keep following it, and when it reaches a point where you feel actually right now I feel like it's worth the money, then buy it then, you know? That would be my advice, you know? I wouldn't want to give a review score or anything like that, because my impression is still based on 3 hours of a pre-release build. Like, but I enjoyed what I played. Wings, my good, there are just enough quality of life changes with KSP2 over KSP1 that makes me very, very excited to carry on playing this game, whilst also fully acknowledging that, you know, there are some downsides. There are things that I think KSP1 does better, especially when you factor mods in, although I do think mods will quickly become, you know, prevalent in KSP2. But yeah, that's my initial impression. Next episode of Matt Plays KSP2 pre-release in Amsterdam with friends. We're gonna do an SSTO video. Hey, look at that water, by the way. That's like scatterer level of quality, and it's stock. It's stock. Like, people are getting hung up on the graphics, but thinking like, guys, this is stock, no mods. I've played console KSP1. It's awful, and that's my review of KSP1 on console. That was this whole video. This whole time I tricked you. You thought this was a KSP2 video? Wrong. This was a review of Kerbal Space Program Console Edition, so-called Enhanced Edition, and it's not good. KSP2, much better. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you especially to the names on screen, my Patreon supporters and channel members. And yeah, I'm going to be posting more KSP2 content throughout the week, so look forward to all of that, and I'll catch you in the next one.